What's going on, Colts Nation? It's Elijah from Sports Talk Indy, where we cover all things Indianapolis Colts every single day. And we're going to cover a couple of draft rumors that are coming up because the draft is tomorrow. And if you're like me, you're literally sitting on the edge of your seat because there have been so many rumors this year about what the Colts plan to do with pick 15, or to move up or to move back. Now, here's the thing. The thing that's getting me this year is that Ballard has been as usual, as per the usual. Ballard has been very cryptic. Ballard does not let you know. I feel like he's one of those GMs that just hates the press, just hates all of that. And so I think it's incredibly interesting. But there have been a lot. We're breaking down a report from Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com. And he says, for where there's smoke, there's fire. There are now more pre-draft rumblings about the Colts looking to trade up in the first round. On Tuesday, Daniel Jeremiah had heard that the Colts were potentially looking to trade up for, not who you would think, cornerback Quinton Mitchell. And I think that now Dan Granziano of ESPN mentioned his recent NFL Intact in article with Jeremy Fowler that the Colts are among few teams making calls to potentially trade up. So now this is two high-level, Dan Graziano and Daniel Jeremiah, two very reputable sources in the NFL, are now both reporting that the Colts are looking to trade up. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to who they're looking to trade up for. Graziano trade up other teams, including the same as Jacksonville, Los Angeles Rams, and the Philadelphia Eagles. I did hear a report say that the Philadelphia Eagles are looking to trade up, and they are looking to trade up for another big playmaker. They're looking to trade up for a wide receiver. I think Malik Neighbors was the name that was being passed around at the time. And then this says, for the Colts and Jaguars, the target would most likely be cornerback. Now, we know this because Ballard also said that there is a deep pocket of wide receivers and offensive line, which would lead us to think that he wouldn't go wide receiver offensive line in the first round, but instead would go there with rounds 2 or 3. And the Colts have also hosted 5 offensive linemen this week alone for visits or virtual visits or attended pro days. So again, it shows a lot of emphasis that there might be some more push towards this offensive line in the later rounds. For the Colts and Jags, the target would be cornerback, which might be interesting for a team like Chicago at 9 or Denver at 12, having 2 division rivals battling it out to trade it for the same guy. Maybe Alabama's Terrion Arnold. Now, of all the mock drafts, I've read like 6 or 7 of them this morning alone, and a lot of them are picking Terrion Arnold. That's like the big name that's going to go to the Colts either at 15 or to move up for that. With the focus at cornerback position, the Colts are either eyeing Toledo's Quinton Mitchell or Alabama's Terrion Arnold at this stage in the draft. According to ESPN Analytics, Mitchell has roughly 30% chance to be available at 50%, and Arnold has a 55% chance. ESPN's data suggests that Arnold is most likely picked for the Colts at 15 if they were to stay put. I think that this is very interesting. Mitchell only had 1 interception this past year, which isn't a reflection. Honestly, some of the best cornerbacks don't have interceptions because they do a good job. You know, some of the best cornerbacks that you'll ever hear don't have a lot of interceptions because they don't get. If you're playing good man coverage, you're not going to get that. So, but I do think this is very interesting. Quinton Mitchell, what's his RAS? It's relative, because I mean, when you're talking about the Colts and you're talking about who the Colts are going to draft, they're going to draft a guy who has, his RAS is 9.75. So you already know that Ballard's going to be high on this guy just because of their relative athletic score. And then Terrion Arnold's RAS is probably pretty high too. Both those guys are up there. RAS, Terrion Arnold's RAS is 8.37. So if I were a betting man, just based on the Colts having that being the biggest thing that the Colts look for, is I would guess Quinton Mitchell based on this alone because the relative athletic score. Ballard last year had an average RAS score of 9.96, which is absolutely insane. That's never, like, that just doesn't happen. But Ballard picks guys based on these relative athletic scores, and I think it comes from just not wanting to deal with injuries. I mean, you hear the most common thing Ballard says is, we like the guys we have. We like the guys we have. We like the guys we have. And so I think that when you like the guys you have, you don't want to see them injured. And so I think that that's a big reason why Ballard goes for these big guys. His height, Terrion Arnold's height is 7.15, weight 5.21. These are of the relative athletic scores. And then his vertical is 7.58. So not a lot being pushed in that, whereas Quentin Mitchell, I mean, like I said, it's just an absolute beast. You have vertical at 8.84, 40-yard dash, he's 4.38, 20-yard split, 2.53. So all of these things point to Quentin Mitchell. Now, where are we getting these? Where are the Colts going to go? Granziano mentions the Bears at 9 and the Broncos at 12. These are both teams that I would expect to be available to trade. The problem is you're going against a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Philadelphia Eagles, who are way more, they're way bigger gamblers, especially the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles will do anything and everything to get their guy. If they believe in someone like they did A.J. Brown or like they did C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a couple years ago, they're not willing, or they're not shy as far as trading these picks. They would rather get guys that they're sure of. And so there's a very real possibility that the Eagles are going to go all in and they're going to push way forward to get into the draft. Whereas a team like the Colts, who are going to be there at pick 9 or pick 15, they might be willing to trade. I think either of these guys are going to look really good. I think the market, Terrion Arnold plays in a tougher, playing for Alabama, you're on a tougher defense, and Alabama defensive players have been coming out and been really, really good, especially those with the first-round grades. And then I also saw someone say that another report had that the Colts would go out and get Dallas Turner and get a defensive end at pick 12 with the Broncos. So I think if I were to guess, it definitely seems like Chris Ballard says this. It would depend on there would have to be someone within striking distance we felt was really unique and a difference maker for us. I think you got to look at defense. I was just reading the statistics this morning on the Indianapolis Colts, and the Indianapolis Colts were ranked 10th in offense as far as points scored, first downs, rushing, all of that. And now you have a healthy Anthony Richardson, and now you have Michael Pittman on a new deal. And so I think you look at these guys, and you got second-year Josh Downs, who was likely going to be even better than he was last year. You got Jelani Woods coming back. So as much fun as it would be to get a first-round wide receiver or a first-round target for Anthony Richardson, I also think that there's a lot of value in going with the defense. Xavier Legette is still projected to be available at pick 46. Xavier Worthy is going to be available at pick 40. So if you're talking about trading up 6 picks in the second round versus trading up 6 picks in the first round, I think it's a big deal. Whereas I think your top 3 wide receivers in Malik Neighbors, Robo Nduze, and Marvin Harrison Jr., there's no chance that the Colts are going to be able to get those with a short haul. It's going to be a highway robbery at that point because there are so many teams wanting to move up for those guys. And I think that it would be really tough for the Colts to be able to get those. But that's just my take. That's just my opinion. I would say that it's more likely that the Colts are going to go and take one of these guys. But again, there's a lot of credibility to this that the Colts are looking to draft or to trade up in the draft. I mean, there's a lot of smoke. There's always a lot of smoke, right? And Ballard doesn't let things know. But I mean, ultimately, none of these sources are coming from Indy. They're coming from the other teams saying that the Colts are at least inquiring about what would it take to trade up. And I think that's very interesting. There also was a report today that we'll get into that the Colts are among 2 teams very interested in Brandon Ayuk from the San Francisco 49ers. I think that's huge. I don't really love the deal, but Brandon Ayuk came from that 2020 wide receiver draft. I mean, he had 1,300 yards last year. This would be a really cool difference maker for the Colts. Another one of those guys that's a deep threat, but also a very good route runner. I'd be very interested to see that. I don't think the Colts are going to go for that because I think that Ayuk would more likely go for a contending team, being on the last year of his deal. But, we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. But all of these things are incredibly interesting. And like I said, I think it's very interesting that multiple sources are at least inquiring that the Colts are looking to move up in the NFL draft. So be sure to like and subscribe. We're going to be covering all things Colts. We're going to be releasing videos as soon as the Colts pick their first round pick on a breakdown of who that pick is and what they look like on the Indianapolis Colts offense or defense or special teams maybe. We'll see. But yeah, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.